Quote, Mrs. Trudeau was implicated in the situation. My trial was finally heard in Toronto in October of 1978. The longer the process went on, the clearer it was the Canadian government wanted to wriggle out of it. Now, the Mounties and their allies were thinking, oh great, wonderful job. We delivered Keith to the Canadian government with a hook in his mouth. But the Trudeaus were thinking, pal, this is the last thing we need. There were 500 to 600 people outside every time I turned up in court, chanting, free Keith, free Keith. And we knew that the enemy camp, if you want to call the Canadian government at the time the enemy or persecutors, were unsure of their footing. Whereas I didn't mind. I figured the harder they hit me, the easier I would get out. The Mounties, or at least the prosecution, didn't want to wriggle out at all. In almost every one of these cases brought against us at the time, the law had its hands dirty. They knew I wasn't trafficking, but they wanted to rail it through to a jury to get a long and historic jail sentence. They made a mistake. The allegation of trafficking just to get a stiff sentence is absurd. Keith's a hopeless addict. He's got a medical problem. My lawyers wrote a report that showed, according to all legal precedent and local case histories, if I weren't Keith Richards, I would probably have gotten no more than a suspended sentence. Only at the last minute did they change the trafficking charge to possession, adding a cocaine charge. This shift weakened and exposed them. It exposed more about the Canadian government than anything to do with, oh, guess what? Keith Richards is on smack. What else is new? The Trudeau's implication in the whole scenario at the hotel, that was another thing, which was more buzzworthy. Margaret Trudeau, wife of Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, moving into the hotel as a Rolling Stones appendage, offering a double big tabloid story. The Prime Minister's young wife with the Stones. And you add in drugs, you're looking at a 3-month run. In the end, it may have played in my favor regarding my highly publicized heroin court case in Canada, but at the time, it was the worst combination of circumstances. Margaret Trudeau was 22, and Pierre was 51 when they got married. It was a bit like Sinatra and Mia Farrow, the power and the flower child. And now Trudeau's bride, and this was exactly their 6th wedding anniversary, was seen walking in our corridor in a bathrobe. So then the story was she had left him. She had in fact moved into the room next to Ronnie, and they were hitting it off really well. Or, as Ronnie put it so nicely, we shared something special for that short time. She flew to New York to escape the publicity. Mick flew to New York as well, so it was assumed they were an item. Worse and worse. She was a groupie. Nothing wrong with that, but you shouldn't be a prime minister's wife if you want to be a groupie.